Sabrina climbed into a delivery box to escape her father selling her to an abuser, but the address smudged and she landed in a mafia boss's penthouse instead, still wearing the wedding dress, still desperate for freedom, now facing a tattooed man who said 3 words that changed everything. "You're not leaving." Her left leg had gone numb 20 minutes ago. The granola bar wrapper crinkled too loudly every time she shifted, and somewhere above her head, muffled voices spoke in rapid Korean. "Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit," Sabrina thought, pressing her palm against her mouth to stifle a cough. This is officially the worst escape plan in human history. 3 days ago, she'd been standing in her childhood home in Charleston, staring at her father Theodore and his newest disaster, a marriage contract to Todd Whitmore, her father's 42-year-old friend with dead eyes and a reputation that made women whisper warnings at church socials. "You'll marry him next month," her father had said, bourbon sloshing in his glass. "Todd owns 3 refineries and that sugar company. He's willing to overlook my financial situation. It's already arranged." The bruises on Todd's last girlfriend's arms had been arranged too. Everyone knew. No one said anything. Money bought silence in Charleston's old money circles. So Sabrina had done what any reasonable woman would do. She'd stolen her cousin's moving box meant for New York, climbed inside with her emergency supplies, and paid a very confused delivery driver $200 to ship her to freedom. Except the address label had smudged, and freedom apparently had the wrong zip code. The box tipped sideways. Sabrina's head connected with cardboard. Stars exploded behind her eyes. "Boss, there's a box here," a deep voice said in accented English. "We didn't order anything." "Then send it back." This voice was different, colder, the kind of voice that didn't expect to repeat itself. "It's moving." Silence, then footsteps, close, closer. The box ripped open. Light flooded in, blinding after hours of darkness. Sabrina tumbled forward, landing face first on polished hardwood floors. Her wedding dress, the one she'd been forced to try on yesterday, billowed around her like a white parachute, its ridiculous pink bow catching on the box edge. She looked up. 6 men in expensive suits stared down at her. Behind them, floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a nighttime city view that could only mean one thing. She was very, very high up. And directly in front of her, arms crossed, expression carved from ice, stood the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. He was tall, at least 6'3", with black hair swept back from a face that belonged on a movie poster. But it was his chest that made her breath catch. He wore no shirt, just black pants, and his torso was a canvas of ink, dragons coiled across his pectoral muscles, wings spreading toward his shoulders, scales rendered in impossible detail. His skin was golden in the warm apartment lighting, and his eyes were the color of winter storms, and they were looking at her like she was a problem that needed solving. "I didn't order a bride," he said flatly. Sabrina scrambled to her feet, fighting with the wedding dress that seemed determined to strangle her. "I'm not a bride. I'm a fugitive. There's a difference." One dark eyebrow rose. "A fugitive? Look, there's been a mistake." She smoothed down the dress, acutely aware of how insane she must look. "This box was supposed to go to Brooklyn, my cousin Janelle's place, 447 Park Avenue. But apparently the universe hates me, so," she gestured around the luxury penthouse, "here I am, in your very nice, incredibly expensive—" "Oh God, are those original Rothkos on the wall?" "Jihoon?" The tattooed man didn't take his eyes off her. "Who is she?" One of the suited men stepped forward. He was enormous, 6'5" at least, with a scarred face that would have been terrifying if not for the gentle confusion in his eyes. "Running her face through the database now, boss." Boss? Oh no. Jihoon continued, reading from his phone. "Age 26, Charleston, South Carolina. Father is Theodore Patterson, mother deceased." He paused, scrolling. Then his expression changed. "Boss, Theodore Patterson owes the Wong Syndicate $15 million, gambling debts. The file says he disappeared 6 months ago. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. The tattooed man, the boss, studied her with new intensity. His gaze traveled from her tangled hair to her bare feet, cataloging every detail. $15 million? Sabrina's stomach dropped to her toes. I don't have $15 million. I have $47 in my checking account and half a granola bar in that box. Your father stole from people I'm affiliated with. He stepped closer. She could smell cedar and something darker, dangerous. That makes you very interesting, Miss Patterson. I haven't spoken to my father in 6 months. I don't know where he is. I don't know anything about any money. I was just trying to escape my own disaster of an arranged marriage when... Arranged marriage? Something flickered in his gaze, almost like amusement? To my father's friend Todd. He owns refineries and a sugar company, which apparently makes him a catch, despite the fact that his last girlfriend wore long sleeves in August for a reason. Sabrina heard herself say the quiet part loud, because apparently when facing the Korean Mafia, her mouth disconnected from her brain. So yeah, climbing into a box seemed like the better option, though in retrospect, she looked around the penthouse at the 6 dangerous men, at the man with dragons across his chest. I may have miscalculated. The boss tilted his head, studying her. Then to her complete shock, the corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Ji-hoon, the tattooed man didn't take his eyes off her. Show Miss Patterson to the guest room. Wait, what? No, I'm leaving. I'll just... Sabrina turned toward the door. 5 men moved to block it. The boss walked past her, close enough that her skin prickled with awareness. He paused at the hallway entrance. You're not leaving, Miss Patterson. Not until your father's debt is settled. He disappeared into the shadows. Sabrina stood in her ruined wedding dress in a stranger's penthouse, 42 floors above the city. Well, she muttered, Happy Valentine's Day to me. Well, well, well. Sabrina just went from a cardboard box to a penthouse prison in record time. If you're intrigued by this Valentine's Day gone wrong story, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, it gets so much better, and worse, and better again. Share this with someone who needs a wild romance story in their life. And here's the fun part. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the craziest thing you've ever done to escape a bad situation? Doesn't have to be box related, but bonus points if it is. Also, how's your day going? Are you procrastinating, relaxing, sneaking this story during your lunch break? I want to know what you're up to while Sabrina's whole life falls apart. Ji-hoon led Sabrina down a hallway lined with abstract. His massive frame moved with surprising grace, like a bear that had taken ballet lessons. So, Sabrina said, because silence made her nervous, on a scale of 1 to I'm definitely going to die, how bad is this situation? Ji-hoon glanced back, his scarred face softening. Boss doesn't hurt women. You're safe. That's comforting, I think. What's his name anyway? Or do you all just call him Boss like you're in a really expensive crime drama? Kang Min. Ji-hoon stopped at a door, pushing it open. And this is your room. Sabrina's jaw dropped. A king-sized bed dominated the space, dressed in white linens that looked softer than clouds. The attached bathroom, visible through an open door, featured a rainfall shower and a tub big enough to swim in. This is a guest room? She turned in a slow circle. What does his room look like, Versailles? Ji-hoon's lips twitched. Bigger. A garment bag lay across the bed, along with several shopping bags from stores Sabrina had only window shopped at in her dreams. How? She touched the garment bag. I've been here for 20 minutes. How is there already clothes? Kang Min prepared for contingencies. He's been tracking your father for 6 months. When you disappeared 3 days ago, he had your sizes researched, just in case. The door closed with a soft click, a lock engaged. Sabrina stared at it, her heart pounding. She was 42 floors up. The windows didn't open, she'd already checked. Her phone was still in the box, probably being searched by Kang Min's people right now. She walked to the window, pressing her forehead against the cool glass. The city sprawled below, so close and impossibly far. Day 1 of captivity, she muttered. Already better accommodations than my last relationship. That's either sad or concerning, possibly both. She unzipped the garment bag. Inside hung designer clothes in her exact size. Jeans, silk blouses, cashmere sweaters, everything with tags still attached. She checked a price tag and immediately regretted it. The dress alone cost 3 months of her rent. Sabrina sank onto the bed, still wearing her wedding dress with its ridiculous pink bow. The mattress felt like sleeping on a cloud made of money. Her phone. She needed her phone. Needed to call Janelle or her friend Miranda or literally anyone who could what? Call the police? Hi, yes, I mailed myself in a box to escape an arranged marriage and ended up with the Korean Mafia. Wasn't exactly a 911 friendly opening. A soft knock interrupted her spiral. Miss Patterson? Ji-hoon's voice came through the door. Boss wants to see you. 5 minutes. Sabrina looked down at her wrinkled wedding dress. Can I change first? He said to bring you as you are. Of course he did. Kang Min's office was all dark wood and leather, with artwork that belonged in museums. He sat behind a massive desk, now wearing a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His tattooed forearms were distracting in ways Sabrina didn't want to examine. He gestured to a chair across from him. Sit. I prefer to stand. That wasn't a request. Sabrina sat. Her wedding dress rustled like it was judging her life choices. Kang Min steepled his fingers, studying her. Your father, Theodore Patterson, borrowed $15 million from the Huang Syndicate 18 months ago. He promised returns on a real estate investment. The investment was fraudulent. The money disappeared. I don't know anything about that. Your father disappeared 6 months ago. 3 days ago, you disappeared. Coincidence? I was running from an arranged marriage to a man who thinks bruises are romantic accessories, Sabrina snapped. Not masterminding a $15 million heist. There's a difference. Something flickered in his eyes. Todd Whitmore. I know of him. Sugar refineries. History of violence toward women. He leaned forward. Your father was selling you to cover his debts. The words hit like a physical blow. Sabrina had suspected, but hearing it confirmed. That doesn't mean I know where your money is. Perhaps. Kang Min pulled out a folder, sliding it across the desk. But until I locate your father, your valuable leverage, and possibly the only person who knows where he's hiding. Sabrina opened the folder. Bank statements, property records, photographs of her father at casinos, horse tracks, poker games. The documentation was thorough, damning, and complete. I haven't spoken to him in 6 months, she said quietly. He chose gambling over me years ago. When my mother died, he didn't even come to the funeral. He was in Atlantic City. Kang Min's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Nevertheless, you stay here until this is resolved. For how long? Until I say otherwise. Sabrina stood, wedding dress swishing. You can't keep me prisoner indefinitely. That's kidnapping. It's illegal. His lips curved. Not quite a smile, more like a wolf showing teeth. Miss Patterson, do you know what I do for a living? I'm guessing it's not data entry. I own 3 restaurants, 2 nightclubs, and a commercial real estate portfolio, all legitimate. He stood, moving around the desk with predatory grace. But I also collect debts, and I'm very good at my job. He stopped close enough that Sabrina had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Up close, she could see flecks of silver in his gray eyes, see the faint scar along his jawline. You have 2 choices, he said softly. Cooperate, help me find your father and enjoy comfortable accommodations while we search. Or, he paused, don't cooperate. Still stay here, but without the comforts. That's not two choices. That's the same choice with different furniture. His almost smile returned. Smart girl. Ji-Hwan will take you back to your room. We'll talk again tomorrow. Wait. Sabrina caught his arm without thinking. His skin was warm, the muscle beneath solid. She dropped her hand like it burned. My phone. Can I at least call my cousin? Let her know I'm alive? No. One call, 5 minutes. I'll use your phone. You can listen to every word. No. He moved toward the door. Get some rest, Miss Patterson. Tomorrow you start earning your keep. Earning your... What does that mean? But he was already gone. Back in her room, Sabrina tried the door. Locked. Tried the windows. Sealed. Checked her bathroom for escape routes and found only luxury toiletries. She collapsed on the bed, still wearing the wedding dress that was supposed to be for Todd Whitmore. This is fine, she told the ceiling. I've been kidnapped by a tattooed Korean mafia boss who dresses me in designer clothes and locks me in luxury prisons. Totally fine. Completely normal Valentine's Day. Her stomach growled, reminding her that the last granola bar was long gone. As if summoned by hunger, another knock sounded. Ji-Hoon entered with a tray. Dinner. Boss says you need to eat. The smell hit her first. Korean fried chicken, kimchi, rice, and was that japchae? Her mouth watered traitorously. He cooks? Sometimes, when he can't sleep. Ji-Hoon set the tray on the desk. Eat, you'll need your strength. For what? His scarred face softened into something almost sympathetic. Tomorrow you meet Yuki. She's intense. He left before Sabrina could ask what that meant. She ate the fried chicken. It was perfect, crispy, flavorful, with just enough spice to make her lips tingle. She hated that it was perfect. Day 1, Sabrina muttered, licking sauce from her fingers. Kidnapped, fed amazing Korean food, dressed in designer clothes. Stockholm Syndrome speed run, here we go. But as she curled up in the too soft bed, wearing silk pajamas that probably cost a month's salary, one thought kept circling. Kang Min's hands had been gentle when he'd cooked, and his eyes, when she'd mentioned her mother's funeral, had flickered with something that looked almost like understanding. Monsters didn't cook fried chicken at midnight, did they? Morning arrived with sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of something burning. Sabrina woke disoriented, tangled in sheets. For one blissful moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. The box, the debt, the tattooed man who'd locked her in luxury. She showered in the rainfall setup, using products she couldn't pronounce, and dressed in the clothes provided. Dark jeans that fit perfectly, a cream sweater softer than sin. She braided her hair, studying herself in the mirror. You look like you belong here, she told her reflection. That's the problem. The bedroom door was unlocked. Sabrina tested the handle twice, certain it was a trap, but it opened smoothly, revealing the hallway beyond. She followed the smell, definitely burning now, to a kitchen that belonged in an architectural magazine. White marble counters, commercial-grade appliances, and Kang Min standing at the stove, shirtless again, frowning at a pan of smoking rice. The dragons on his chest seemed to move in the morning light. You're burning breakfast, Sabrina said. He didn't turn around. I'm aware. You're also doing it wrong. Now he turned. His gray eyes were flat in the morning light, unreadable. Wrong. The heat's too high. You didn't rinse the rice enough. And she moved closer, peering at the pot. Is that supposed to be kimchi jjigae? Because it looks like a crime scene. Something dangerous flickered across his face. You criticize my cooking in my kitchen. You kidnapped me. I criticize whatever I want. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Sabrina's heart hammered, but she refused to look away. If she was trapped here, she'd be trapped on her terms. Kang Min's lips twitched. Fix it. What? You say I'm doing it wrong. Fix it. He stepped back from the stove, gesturing. Show me. It was a test, obviously a test. But Sabrina's hands were already moving, muscle memory from years of cooking for her alcoholic father, from late nights experimenting in her tiny apartment kitchen. She dumped the burned rice, started fresh, rinsed it properly, adjusted the heat, added the right water ratio. The kimchi jjigae needed more gochugaru, less salt, and for the love of God, you couldn't just dump everything in at once. Kang Min watched from the counter, sipping coffee. Where did you learn to cook Korean food? YouTube and desperation. My neighbor in Charleston was Korean, Mrs. Park. She taught me basics before she moved. Cooking was cheaper than therapy. You needed therapy? My mother died when I was 16. My father drank away her life insurance within a year. I needed something to control when everything else was chaos. She stirred the rice. Food made sense. Follow the recipe, get the result. No surprises, no betrayals. She felt his gaze on her back, heavy and assessing. No betrayals, he repeated softly, until your father sold you to his friend. Sabrina's hand tightened on the spoon. I don't want to talk about that, but you'll talk about it eventually because I need to understand why you ran, where you might run to next. She spun around. I ran because marrying an abuser seemed worse than any alternative, even mailing myself in a box. Even, she gestured at him, whatever this is. Kang Min set down his coffee. This is debt collection, business, nothing personal. You locked me in a room. I gave you a suite. There's a difference. You took my phone. You're a flight risk. I climbed into a cardboard box. I'm absolutely a flight risk. Sabrina turned back to the stove before he could see her hands shaking. Your rice is ready. Try not to burn it this time. She plated the food, muscle memory guiding her hands. Bowl of rice, kimchi jjigae in a stone pot, banchan arranged neatly. It looked restaurant quality. Kang Min studied the presentation, then took a bite. His eyebrows rose. Well, Sabrina crossed her arms. Verdict? He took another bite. Good. It's perfect. Say it's perfect. It's adequate. Adequate? Sabrina laughed, sharp and disbelieving. I just saved your breakfast from being a hate crime against Korean cuisine and you say adequate? His lips curved. A real smile this time, small but genuine. It's very good. Thank you. She made herself a bowl. Now tell me what you meant by earning my keep. I own a restaurant in Midtown, Korean fusion, upscale. My head chef quit yesterday. He watched her over his coffee. You'll work there until I locate your father. Sabrina nearly dropped her spoon. You want me to cook professionally? You clearly have skills. I have a need. Business. I'm not a professional chef. She stopped. What was she? She'd been waitressing at a diner in Charleston, taking online classes she couldn't afford, dreaming of culinary school while her father gambled away any chance of tuition. I'm not trained. You're trained enough. Kang Min stood, rinsing his bowl. Ji-hoon will take you today. You'll work dinner service. And if I refuse? He turned, and the warmth from his smile vanished. Then you sit in that beautiful room, day after day, with nothing to do but think about your father's debt. Your choice. It wasn't a choice. They both knew it. Fine, Sabrina said, but I'm not cooking anything with your recipe notes. They're clearly wrong. Clearly. He moved past her, close enough that she smelled cedar and something spicy. One more thing, Miss Patterson. What? Don't try to run. I have security everywhere. And he paused at the doorway. Where would you go? Back to Charleston? To Todd Whitmore? The name hung in the air like poison. The restaurant, Kang Min continued, is your freedom. Limited, supervised, but freedom nonetheless. I suggest you take it. He disappeared down the hallway. Sabrina sat in his kitchen eating perfect rice in a perfect prison and wondered when exactly her life had become a K-drama written by a sadist. Day 2, cooking for the Mafia. Mom would be so proud. But her hands weren't shaking anymore, and the rice really was perfect. This woman is either the bravest person alive or has a death wish, maybe both. Before we continue, I need your help. If you're loving this chaotic Valentine's Day story, please like this video. It helps me know you're enjoying the story. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because trust me, the romance is about to hit and the drama is about to explode. The restaurant was called Lotus and Steel, a name that somehow managed to be both elegant and vaguely threatening. Ji-hoon drove Sabrina there in a black Mercedes. "So," Sabrina said, watching Manhattan blur past, "on a scale of 1 to Gordon Ramsay, how mean is this kitchen staff going to be to the kidnapped amateur?" Ji-hoon's scarred face crinkled with amusement. "Yuki is protective of her territory. That's not ominous at all." The restaurant occupied the ground floor of a building in Midtown, all glass and steel with minimalist design. Inside, the kitchen gleamed like an operating room, and standing at the prep station, arms crossed, was a woman who looked like she could kill someone with a well-aimed spatula. Yuki was petite, maybe 5'2", with short black hair and eyes that could cut glass. She wore a chef's coat like armor and radiated the kind of authority that came from years of ruling her domain. "This is the girl?" Yuki's gaze traveled over Sabrina, assessing and finding her wanting. "She looks like she couldn't julienne a carrot." "I can julienne a carrot," Sabrina said. "I can also brunoise, chiffonade, and supremely segment a citrus. Want me to keep going?" Yuki's eyebrow rose. Big words for someone who's never worked a professional kitchen. Big attitude for someone whose boss just hired me. Ji-hoon coughed. "I'll be outside. Try not to kill each other." The kitchen door swung shut. Yuki circled Sabrina like a shark. "You're the Patterson girl, the one whose father owes boss $15 million. That's me, living the dream." "You know what I think?" Yuki stopped directly in front of her. "I think you're a spoiled Charleston princess who's never worked a day in her life. I think you'll last exactly 1 dinner service before you're crying in the walk-in." Something hot and angry flared in Sabrina's chest. She'd spent her life being underestimated, dismissed, told she wasn't good enough. "You know what I think?" Sabrina stepped closer. "I think you're testing me because that's what bullies do. So here's the deal. Give me a station, give me a prep list, and watch me work. Then decide if I'm worth your attitude." Silence stretched between them. Then Yuki smiled, sharp, approving. "Prep station 3. I need brunoise on 50 shallots, supremes on 20 grapefruits, and a gallon of gochujang aioli. You have 2 hours. Done." "And Sabrina," Yuki turned back, "in my kitchen, I don't care who your daddy is or who you're sleeping with. You earn respect with your knife skills, nothing else." "I'm not sleeping with anyone. Yet." Yuki's smile turned knowing. "Boss doesn't look at women the way he looks at you unless he's planning something." Before Sabrina could respond, the back door crashed open and a man stumbled in carrying a laptop covered in conspiracy theory stickers. "The Valentine's Day flowers are bugged," he announced in a thick Russian accent. "I knew it. The delivery company is CIA front." "Dmitri," Yuki sighed, "the flowers are from the vendor we've used for 3 years. "That's what they want you to think." Dmitri was tall, thin, with wild hair and eyes that suggested too much caffeine and not enough sleep. He spotted Sabrina. "You, box girl, did you know your delivery company has ties to—" "Dmitri," Yuki said firmly, "go back to your cameras." "But the—" "Cameras, now." Dmitri shuffled out, muttering about surveillance states. Sabrina stared. What was that? "That's Dmitri, tech security, brilliant with computers, insane about everything else." Yuki handed her a knife. "Now stop stalling and start chopping." 2 hours later, Sabrina's arms ached and her eyes watered from shallot fumes, but her prep station was immaculate. Perfect brunoise, supremes without a trace of pith, aioli whipped to glossy perfection. Yuki inspected each container, her face unreadable. Then she nodded once. "You'll do appetizers tonight. Don't screw up." It wasn't praise, but it wasn't dismissal either. Dinner service was chaos. Orders flew, tickets printed. The kitchen transformed into a carefully orchestrated storm. Sabrina worked her station. Korean fried cauliflower, gochujang wings, kimchi pancakes, and fell into the rhythm she'd only dreamed about. The focus, the heat, the perfect chaos of creation. She was plating her 50th order when she felt him. Kang Min stood in the kitchen doorway, watching. He'd changed into a black suit, looking every inch the successful restaurateur. His eyes tracked her movements, the way she sauced the plate, the precision of her garnish. Their gazes met across the kitchen. Something electric passed between them. "Order up," Sabrina called, breaking eye contact first. After service, Sabrina collapsed on a milk crate in the alley, her chef's coat splattered with sauce, her hair escaping its braid. She'd survived. Barely, but survived. The door opened. Kang Min stepped out, loosening his tie. "You did well tonight." "I didn't die. The bar is low." He almost smiled. "Yuki doesn't compliment easily. She told me you have potential." "She said I didn't completely embarrass her. Is that a compliment in her language?" From Yuki, it's glowing praise. He sat beside her on another crate, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "You surprised me, Miss Patterson. Sabrina, if I'm cooking for you, you can use my name." Sabrina. The way he said it, careful and deliberate, made her skin prickle. "Why did you never pursue cooking professionally?" "Because culinary school costs money, and my father preferred gambling to college funds." She stared at the alley wall. "After my mom died, I worked 3 jobs just to keep us afloat. When I finally saved enough for community college, he stole it for a sure thing at the track." Kang Min was quiet for a long moment. "My father believed in discipline above all else. Love was weakness. Emotion was failure." His voice dropped. "When my mother got sick, he wouldn't pay for experimental treatments, said it was throwing good money after bad." Sabrina turned to look at him. In the dim alley light, his face was softer, younger, vulnerable. "How old were you?" 18. She died 6 months later. His jaw tightened. "I took over the family business at 23 when my father was killed. Everyone said I was too young, too American, not ruthless enough." Were they right? His eyes met hers. "What do you think?" Sabrina thought about the locked door, the surveillance, the casual way he'd taken control of her life. But she also thought about the midnight cooking, the opportunity he'd given her, the way his eyes had flickered with pain when she'd mentioned her mother. "I think you're more complicated than you want people to believe." Something shifted in his expression. He stood abruptly. "Ji-hoon will drive you back. You start at 4 tomorrow." He was gone before she could respond. Sabrina sat alone in the alley, her heart doing complicated things she didn't want to examine. "Day 3, she muttered, started catching feelings for my captor, right on schedule for Stockholm Syndrome. But it didn't feel like Stockholm Syndrome. It felt like recognition, like finding someone who understood what it meant to survive. A week passed in a blur of prep work and dinner service. Sabrina fell into a routine. Wake up in the luxury prison, get driven to the restaurant, cook until her feet ached, return to the penthouse, collapse. Repeat. She was getting good. Even Yuki admitted it, though the words were buried under 17 layers of critique. But something else was happening too. Kang Min appeared in the kitchen every night, watching her work. Sometimes he'd taste her dishes, nod approvingly, disappear. Other times he'd stay through service, and Sabrina would feel his eyes on her like a physical touch. The awareness between them was becoming impossible to ignore. Friday night, Sabrina couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet, her mind too loud with thoughts of her father, Todd, and a tattooed man who cooked when he was sad. She padded to the kitchen at 2 a.m. and found Kang Min already there. He stood at the stove in black sweatpants and nothing else, his tattooed back a canvas of ink and muscle. He was making japchae, the glass noodles glistening in the pan. "Can't sleep?" Sabrina asked. He didn't startle. "Never can after closing the books. Numbers make my brain too active." "Want company?" He glanced over his shoulder. Something in his eyes made her breath catch. "If you're offering." Sabrina moved to the counter, watching him cook. His movements were precise, practiced, almost meditative. "My mother taught me this dish," he said quietly, "before she got sick. She said cooking was meditation. Control the ingredients, control the outcome." "Your father didn't cook?" Kang Min's voice hardened. "My father believed cooking was women's work. He believed a lot of things that were wrong. Like emotion being weakness? Like love being a liability." He turned off the heat, dividing the japchae between two bowls. "He said my mother made me soft, that caring about her death would destroy me." "Did it?" Kang Min handed her a bowl, their fingers brushing. The contact sent electricity up her arm. "It made me ruthless. I decided no one would ever control me through something I loved again." "That's why you don't—" Sabrina stopped. "Why you keep everyone at distance?" "Yes." He leaned against the counter, steadying her. Her heart hammered. "I'm your prisoner. Leverage, you said it yourself." "I lied." The words dropped like stones between them. "You stopped being leverage the moment you told me your father chose gambling over your mother's funeral." Sabrina set down her bowl with trembling hands. "Then what am I?" Kang Min moved closer, not touching, but close enough that she could feel his heat. "Dangerous." "I'm dangerous? You literally kidnap people." "I collect debts. There's a difference." His lips curved. "But you, Sabrina Patterson, make me forget why I built these walls. You make me want things I swore I'd never want again." "Like what?" "Like someone who sees past the tattoos and the reputation. Someone who argues with me about rice preparation. Someone who—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "This is a mistake." "What is?" "This, us, this conversation." But he didn't move away. "You should go back to your room." "Why?" "Because if you stay, I'm going to kiss you." Sabrina's breath caught. Every rational thought screamed that this was insane. He'd kidnapped her, locked her up, controlled every aspect of her life for a week. But it also given her a kitchen, respected her skills, shared his pain. And he was giving her a choice right now. To leave? To stay? "What if I want you to?" The words escaped before she could stop them. Kang Min's eyes darkened. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean it." Sabrina stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "I've spent my whole life letting other people make choices for me. My father, Todd, even climbing into that box was running away from a choice, not making one." She touched his chest, feeling his heartbeat thunderous under her palm. "So I'm making a choice now. I'm choosing to stay in this kitchen. With you." For a moment, he just stared at her. Then his hand came up, cupping her face with surprising gentleness. "You're sure?" "No." Sabrina laughed shakily. "This is probably the worst decision I've ever made. But I'm making it anyway." Kang Min's thumb traced her cheekbone. "I won't be able to stop at one kiss." "Good." He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was consuming, desperate, like he'd been holding back for days and the dam had finally broken. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and Sabrina melted into him. She'd been kissed before. This wasn't that. This was claiming, recognition, home. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Kang Min pressed his forehead against hers. "This complicates things," he murmured. "Everything about us is complicated. Your father still owes $15 million. Todd Whitmore still has a legal claim on you through that marriage contract. And He pulled back, meeting our eyes. "I still don't know if I can trust you." The words stung, but Sabrina understood. "Then don't trust me. Just don't lock me out." "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "Caring about someone again. It's been so long." "Me neither. I thought I loved someone once. He used my rent money to buy car parts and slept with my coworker." Sabrina managed to smile. "So we'll figure it out together. Make mistakes. Argue about cooking. Whatever." Kang Min's lips curved. "You really think it's that simple?" "No, I think it's terrifying and complicated and probably going to end in disaster." She kissed him again, softer this time. His arms wrapped around her, holding her close. Dangerous woman. Dangerous man. They stood in the kitchen, two damaged people who'd found each other in the worst possible way and pretended the world outside didn't exist. At least for tonight. 3 weeks into captivity turned something else, Sabrina was plating a special when Dimitri burst into the kitchen. "Boss, the refinery man is here." Every knife in the kitchen stopped moving. Yuki's face went pale. "Todd Whitmore? Here?" Sabrina's hands froze on the plate. Blood roared in her ears. Kang Min appeared in the kitchen doorway, his expression carved from ice. "Stay here," he told Sabrina. Then to Ji-hoon, "With me." "No," Sabrina stripped off her apron. "If he's here for me, I face him." "Sabrina, you don't get to protect me from this." Her voice shook but held firm. "He's been controlling my life through fear for months. I won't hide anymore." Something flickered in Kang Min's eyes. Pride, maybe, or concern. "Then you stay behind me." The dining room was half full of Friday night customers, and sitting at the best table flanked by 2 men in expensive suits was Todd Whitmore. He looked exactly as Sabrina remembered. Silver hair, cold blue eyes, smile that never reached his face. Handsome in the way poisonous things were often beautiful. "Sabrina!" Todd stood, arms open like they were old friends. "There you are. Your father and I have been so worried." "Liar," the word came out steady. "My father sold me to you like livestock." Such harsh words. Todd's smile sharpened. "I prefer to think of it as a mutually beneficial arrangement. I pay his debts, you gain security. Everyone wins. Except me." "Mr. Whitmore." Kang Min's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "You're in my restaurant, uninvited." Todd's gaze slid to Kang Min, assessing. "Ah, the Korean businessman who's been harboring my fiancé. We need to talk." "She's not your fiancé. Legally, she is." Todd pulled papers from his jacket. "Marriage contract, signed by her father as debt collateral, binding under South Carolina law. I own her." The words hit like physical blows. Own her. "You don't own anyone," Sabrina said. "The courts disagree." Todd's smile was venomous. "Your father's debts to various parties totaled $18 million. I paid them. In exchange, you marry me. It's all very legal." Kang Min took the papers, scanning them. His jaw tightened. "These are legitimate." "Of course they are. I'm a legitimate businessman." Todd turned back to Sabrina. "Pack your things, darling. We have a wedding to plan." "No." "It's not a request. I said no." Sabrina stepped forward, her fear transforming into fury. "I know about Michelle and Rebecca before her. I know about the hospital visits they won't talk about, the NDAs, the payoffs." Todd's smile vanished. "Careful, Sabrina." "Why? What will you do? Hit me here in front of witnesses?" She gestured at the dining room. "Or will you wait until we're married when it's legal? You think this tattooed thug will protect you?" Todd's voice dropped to something ugly. He's using you to get to your father's money. Once he finds it, you're disposable. Sabrina glanced at Kang Min. His face revealed nothing. Maybe, she said quietly, but at least he gave me a choice. You never did. Choice? Todd laughed. You climbed into a box and mailed yourself like a coward. That's not choice. That's running. Running from you seemed like survival. Todd's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. His grip was iron, painful. You're coming with me now. Kang Min moved. One moment, Todd was standing. The next, he was slammed against the wall, Kang Min's forearm across his throat. The two suited men reached for weapons, but Ji-hoon materialized behind them, shaking his head slowly. Touch her again, Kang Min said softly, and they'll never find your body. Todd wheezed. The contract is paper. I'm very good at making paper disappear. Kang Min leaned closer. You know who I am, Whitmore. You know what I'm capable of, so I'll make this simple. Leave. Never contact her again or discover exactly why people don't cross me. She's legally mine. Kang Min's grip tightened. She's not yours. For a long moment, the only sound was Todd struggling to breathe. Then Kang Min released him. Todd stumbled, gasping. His cold eyes found Sabrina. This isn't over. Yes, Sabrina said, surprised by her own steadiness. It is. Todd straightened his suit, gathered his papers, and walked out with his men. The door closed behind them. The dining room erupted into whispers. Sabrina stood frozen, shaking. Her wrist throbbed where Todd had grabbed it, already bruising. Kang Min turned to her, his expression softening. Let me see. She held out her wrist. His fingers were gentle as he examined the marks, but his eyes were murderous. I'll kill him, he said quietly. Say the word and he disappears. No, Sabrina pulled her hand back. I won't let you become a murderer for me. I already am one. The words hung between them. Sabrina looked at this man, tattooed, dangerous, capable of violence, who just threatened murder on her behalf. I don't believe that, she said. You should. Kang Min's voice was hollow. I've done things that would make you run screaming back to Charleston. Then tell me, no more secrets. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Not here. Tonight, I'll tell you everything. Yuki appeared from the kitchen. Service is ruined. I'm sending everyone home. Good. Kang Min took Sabrina's hand, carefully avoiding the bruises. Come on, we need to talk. As they walked to his office, Sabrina's mind raced. The contract, Todd's claim, Kang Min's threat. Everything was unraveling. But for the first time, she wasn't running. She was choosing to stay and fight, even if the fight destroyed everything. Kang Min's office felt smaller with the door closed. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one, then sat heavily behind his desk. My father's name was Kang Jae-sung, he began. He built this empire from nothing. Restaurants, clubs, real estate, but also protection rackets, debt collection, money laundering. He was what Americans call a crime boss. Sabrina sipped her whiskey, staying quiet. When I was 18, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. Experimental treatments existed, but they weren't covered by insurance. My father refused to pay, said it was wasting money on someone already dead. Kang Min's knuckles whitened around his glass. So I stole from him. $500,000, got her into a trial. Did it work? She lived 6 more months, 6 months where she smiled again, where we cooked together, where she told me stories about Korea. His voice cracked. My father found out about the theft the day after her funeral, beat me unconscious, disowned me. Sabrina's chest ached. Men. 5 years later, someone put 3 bullets in him outside a club in Flushing. The police called it gang violence. It was me. He met her eyes. I killed my own father, Sabrina, took back the businesses he'd built. Everyone who'd stood with him either fell in line or disappeared. The words should have terrified her. Instead, she felt only sadness. How old were you? 23. He drained his whiskey. I've spent 15 years building something different, legitimate businesses with insurance on the side. I don't hurt civilians, I don't traffic drugs or people, but I collect debts, and sometimes collection gets violent. Like with my father? Your father worked for me as an accountant. For 10 years he was loyal. Then he got into gambling, borrowed from the wrong people. When they came to collect, he panicked and stole $15 million from my accounts to pay them off. Sabrina set down her glass. And then he tried to sell me to cover it. Yes. Kongmin stood, moving to the window. When I found out about the marriage contract to Whitmore, I investigated. 3 women, all with medical records that tell stories. Todd Whitmore is a monster in an expensive suit. So you plan to stop the wedding? I plan to confront your father at the ceremony, force him to tell me where my money was. Then I'd make the Todd problem disappear. He turned to face her. But you beat me to it, climbed into a box and mailed yourself to freedom. Despite everything, Sabrina laughed. Worst escape plan ever. Or the best. You ended up here. Safe. Safe? She stood, moving toward him. Min, Todd has a legal contract. He owns refineries and a sugar company. He has lawyers, money, connections. How do we fight that? We don't. Kongmin pulled out his phone, scrolling. But I've been investigating. Todd's businesses aren't clean. Money laundering through the sugar company, tax fraud. If I leak this to the right people, he'll know it came from you. He'll retaliate. Let him try. Men, no. Sabrina grabbed his hand. I won't let you start a war over me. Yes, it is. His voice rose. You said I was dangerous because I made you want things again. Well, I want things too. I want you alive. I want a future that doesn't involve body counts and revenge. I want... She stopped because she'd almost said love. Kangmin's eyes darkened. What do you want, Sabrina? The words stuck in her throat. I need to tell you something. He waited. That day I went to my apartment to say goodbye before we left Charleston, I found something. Sabrina's hands shook. My mother, before she died, she left me a safety deposit box. I found the key. Kangmin went very still. What was in it? Evidence. Bank statements showing my father's gambling started after Todd introduced him to illegal betting rings. Emails proving Todd fabricated some of the debts to force the marriage contract. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling. And stock certificates, my mother's inheritance worth $20 million. The silence was deafening. 20 million? Kangmin repeated. I can pay you back. The 15 million my father stole, plus interest. I can... Tears burned her eyes. I can buy my freedom. You've had this for 3 weeks. Yes, you've been sleeping in my bed, kissing me, letting me fall. He stopped, jaw clenching. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was scared. The tears spilled over. Scared you'd take the money and throw me out. Scared I'd lose the kitchen, lose Yuki and Ji-hoon, and her voice broke. Lose you. Kangmin stared at her. You thought I'd take money over you? I thought you'd make the smart business decision. The smart business decision. He laughed, bitter and sharp. Do you know what the smart business decision was? Not bringing you here, not letting you into my kitchen, my home, my life. Not falling in love with you. Sabrina's breath caught. You... what? I love you. The words came out raw, angry. I've loved you since you yelled at me about burnt rice, since you stood up to Yuki, since you chose to stay in that kitchen with me at 2 a.m. Men! But you lied to me. His voice went cold. Just like my father, just like everyone else. I was protecting myself. So was I. He moved toward the door. The money. Transfer it to me. Then you're free to go. What? No, men, wait. You bought your freedom, Sabrina. Congratulations. He opened the door. Jihoon will drive you anywhere you want to go. Charleston, your cousins, hell, Canada. I don't care. You don't mean that. His eyes met hers, and they were empty. Don't I? He walked out. Sabrina stood alone in the office, her heart shattering into pieces. She'd finally found someone who saw her, who valued her, who loved her, and she destroyed it with the same lie she judged her father for. The choice she'd been so proud of making had cost her everything.